Hi and welcome back to the channel and the fifth and final part of Stop Bluesing All Wrong, the turnarounds. This time is personal. So yeah, what it says on the tin, we're going to do two things. We're going to take the turnaround apart harmonically, find out what makes it tick and what the chords are actually doing there. And then I'm going to give you 8 killer turnarounds. Killer, yeah, they're pretty good. 8 turnarounds that you can learn, pull apart, dissect and use elements of for your own amusement. But keep it legal, kids. Okay. Right, let's crack on. First, the turnaround. What is it? So this is the turnaround that you find on the backing track. It's completely typical. So all this stuff carries across to any number of different blues tunes. So the first thing you do, you've got your open A, and then you're going to put your little finger on the 7th fret of the D string, gives you another A, an octave above. And it's the picking pattern of low, high, low, a group of 3. Then your first finger goes to the C sharp there on the 4th fret of the A string. Same picking pattern. Then your second finger goes in front of that, D. And third goes in front of that, D sharp. And then you hit your low E and grab either the shell voicing of E7 or E9 or E7 straight. Okay, so that sounds like. That. So let's dissect that harmonically. So the first beat is just A, so we're going to just call that A major, right? So this is always accompanied, or very often accompanied, with a descending line that fills out the harmony, which you'll recognise, no doubt. You know. So if I put those two things together, it's just A major, right? Now, when we go to here, and we've got C sharp in A, and now G on the top, that's suggesting A7, really strongly. Okay, and then the first finger moves up to D, and the little finger moves up to F sharp, that's just D major. And then as the bottom note moves up from D to E flat, and the top note moves down from F sharp to F, we then get this, which is F7. Or you can just think of it as a diminished chord. It could be an F sharp diminished. Those two chords are intimately related with each other. And then generally that F is going to move down to E while the D sharp moves up to E. So we get good old country motion. Like that. Okay, so. So next we'll dive into what you can do with that, because you've actually got to be able to play those changes. And this is why a lot of blues players have a lot of preset turnaround lines, because it's a bit more challenging to play through those changes than it is to play the main changes of the blues, which of course has been A to D, which is what we've been focusing on all through these previous episodes. So let's get stuck into that. So here we have 8 turnarounds, 4 of which are more harmonically orientated, i.e. they're doing 6 and spelling out the chords, and then the latter 4 which are a bit more single note line orientated. As ever, you can mix the elements. Turnaround 1, well, that starts on the 3rd and the root of the A chord. So that's C sharp here on the 11th fret of the D string, and then the A with your first finger on the 10th of the B. And then the top note's going to move down a tone, and the bottom note's going to move down a major 3rd. So that puts it at 7th on the D for an A, and then a G there on the 8th. Then as it goes to the D chord, D major, it just moves the G down to F sharp, so we've got the 5th and the 3rd of the chord. And then to go to the F7, we're going to drop the F sharp to F, third and the root. And then they just drop a semitone simultaneously to become the third and the root of E7. And then for the little chromatic ascent, we've got A and F sharp, going up to B and G sharp. So that's turnaround number 1. Turnaround number 2. So this starts with your second finger on the E on the G string, 9th fret, and your third on the C sharp. So that's the 5th of the A chord and the major third. And then that bottom voice moves up to G. So that's the 7th of A7 and the major third. And then it drops. So you've got your first finger on D, which is the root of the D chord. And then your third finger on the 7th, the C, on the 8th fret there. And then that goes up to F sharp, which is implying the F sharp diminished 7th. And then back to those two notes then, that's the 5th and major third of A7. So back in the chord. And then the little ascending, so on the third and the root. So you've got like that. Turnaround 3 starts with your second finger on C sharp here on the 6th fret of the G string, and that's the major third of A major, and your first finger on the 5th fret, which is of course the root. And you can then slide that up to E on the 9th of the G, and that's now the 5th of the A7, and your third finger, there's the C sharp there, which is the major third. From there you can slide up again, you're leading with the second finger, and that goes up to F sharp, which is the third, the major third of D major, and your first finger then does the root of D major. Those two voices then go in contrary motion, one going up, one going down. The F sharp is going to go down to F, and the D is going to go up to E flat, which implies the F7 chord. From here it's back to the E chord, so we can slide up with the second leading to G sharp, first finger on the root of E, and from there we just use the little 6th chromatic movement we've used previously, another of these turnarounds. So A, F sharp, up to B, G sharp. Turnaround 4 uses thirds. So we can start with our second finger on the A there, which is obviously the root of the A, and your first finger, the C sharp there, the third of the chord. And then you can slide up to with your third finger onto the C sharp of the B string there on the 14th fret, and your first finger is going to do the E. So both voices have just stepped up in the chord there, so it's now the third and the 5th. From there, as the chord changes to D7, we need to change the C sharp down to C. And the E can stay, and that's like a 9 in relation to the chord of the D7. So then all we need to do is move the E down to E flat. That's going to imply the F7, so that's the 5th and the 7th of F7. So like there. From there, all we have to do is drop those two notes again, a semitone down. They become, well, they remain the 7th and the 5th of E7. There's the 5th B, there's the 7th D. And once again, we can go up chromatically, but this time in thirds, doing D, F sharp, E flat, G, and G sharp, E. So a slightly more involved one there, both in terms of the intervals and in terms of the harmony that's being used, the extended notes of the 7th chords. So turnaround 5. For the first beat of A, we're going to bend the D up to E, do a unison bend to the E like that. So it's E, E, A. Roll across the high A there. And then for that part, we're going to do a minor third bent up. So it's B up to C, turn to the A. And then the same move on the B string, which is going to give us G, F sharp, which of course is for the D chord. So, and we can do that again, and that'll give us E flat, which of course works for the F7. And then we're going to bend the the D up to E, and then use the sliding sixths. D, F sharp, B, G sharp. So. Turnaround 6. So this starts on E flat, and basically we're thinking in groups of 6 semiquavers for each chord. So here it's E flat to E, flat 5, root 5th, 7th, root, minor to go into the major third. And then for the second beat over the A7, it's then G to A, C to C sharp, minor third, major third. And then E to F sharp, that could be G, we did G, F sharp. And then for the third, which is over the D7, it's C, D, E, F sharp, A, C. And it's bent up. So you get like that. So the last one is C, D, E, F sharp, A, B. And then that's bent up to the C for the F7. And then we're doing this sort of descending sixth thing. So that's E and C sharp going to D and B. So. Like so. So this one's all about the trills. So I'm trilling on the 5th fret on the top string, A to B, which is of course the root and second of the A chord, going down to C sharp and D on the G string, 3rd and 4th, F sharp G on the B, 3rd and 4th again, C and D on the G, 7th and root. And then I'm doing a unison bend, so I'm bending the D up to an E on the G string, going to the same pitch on the B string, 5th fret, and then the open top E string. And then I'm doing the old Hey Joe trick, I'm doing a unison slide. And then down to D. So. little upward inflection there on the end. Turnaround 8. So here I'm doing a sixth between the first finger on the E there and C natural there, but I'm going to bend that up a bit. So it's going from the fifth of the A to the minor major third, and then I'm going from the C sharp there to the A, the root, so that's major third to the root, and then I'm doing the seventh, the root of the chord there on the 7th fret. And then I'm doing the G there, so it's the root and 7th. And that moves down to a G and E, a 6th. So again, the 7th and the 5th of the chord. And then we do the F sharp, so we now change the D chord. So we're doing F sharp and D, 3rd and root. And then I'm going to go up to A and F sharp, so that's the 5th and the 3rd. And then we're going to go to C and A. So that's the 7th and the 5th, and then I take that up to E flat and C. So that's going to give us the diminished sound. So you get. And from there, I'm doing a double stop bend. I've got my 3rd finger doing the D there on the top string, 10th fret. Got my 2nd finger doing the A, which is going to go up to B. And then I've got a bending that down, releasing it from B, A, G sharp, and then possibly doing the E there. Or bringing the D up to E, so it just ends up being an E chord. Like that. Okay, that's it. That's the end of Stop Bluesing All Wrong. Now, do not despair. There will be other things, other more interesting things perhaps. So please, no tears. It's not worth it. Anyway, if you've enjoyed that, found it useful at all, you know the deal. Click, like, subscribe, comment in the comments. Tell me how crap I am, etc. Or how wonderful I am, conversely. Preferably the latter. Obviously, and any ideas you might have of stuff you might want me to have a look at. Laters. Bye.